Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. Today we're going to talk about NXT from January the 3rd, 2022. A solid enough episode of NXT. Not a bad show. Not a bad show at all. I actually didn't mind it. Next week look like it's going to be fun as hell too. So this run of NXT should be pretty good. And to add to that, we have one note. Eric Bischoff has a prediction for 2023, and let's just discuss it. So on his podcast, he says at this point, NXT is probably going to deliver more ratings than Dynamite does by midsummer. If the trend that you can see visually continues, my prediction for 2023 is that NXT is going to outperform Dynamite unless things change pretty quickly. I love NXT, I really do, but I don't see this happening. Now, I did see a commercial for Dynamite during NXT. I'm pretty sure all of you saw it too if you were paying attention to commercials. I always pay attention to commercials. I'm always bummed out by the commercials for NXT. Last week, I think there was a commercial for like something like only old people would be interested in, and it gave me such late days Ring of Honor vibe when you used to see Jay Lethal do the knee and back brace commercials, and it's like all old people barely able to stand, and Jay Lethal was cutting a passionate promo about how he needs knee and back braces and all this kind of stuff. I was just kind of like, ugh. There was a sponsor last week about NXT. It was similar. I wish we went through and counted the life insurance commercials in these wrestling shows. I think every single one of them, NXT and Raw especially, have a tremendous amount of like life insurance commercials, like Colonial Penn. I think that's what it was that freaked me out. It was like a Colonial Penn life commercial. And I was just kind of like, what the hell? Why do you have Colonial Penn commercials on your NXT product? Everybody on the show is under the age of 40, with the exception of like a handful of people. None of these people need Colonial Penn when you have to be 50, but then you have to consider the audience. And if it's an over 50 audience, then Colonial Penn is trying to get to that over 50 audience. And I don't know if that's a good thing for NXT. I'm not so sure it's a great thing. But I'm also one of the people that tend to believe that your over 50s is a family thing. That because you kind of see it reflected in the crowd in Florida a little bit. Crowd a little bit older in Florida. I think that's just due to the demographics. I think there's like more older people in Florida per capita than most places. That wouldn't have anything to do with TV, but it would have something to do with the crowd. In any event, back to the ratings thing. We know, and we discussed this on SmackDown on Friday, that NXT is actually producing average ratings that is below the average viewership for USA Network. If you round them both, it's about 700,000, but I think for USA it's around 750, and for NXT it's about 6 something, maybe 660 or something like that. So it's in the ballpark. On a good week it could get up to around where USA Network average audience is. But generally speaking, I don't think there's enough people going to be watching USA Network that NXT is going to get up to where Dynamite is in terms of ratings. I just don't see it. Even if Dynamite continues to go backwards, and I think they're doing 800, 900 thereabouts. That's over the average amount of viewers for USA Network. USA Network doesn't even get in a complete 800,000 people, and I'm just looking at, of course, the average of USA Network will take into account everything that's on USA Network. So I'm not going to join Eric Bischoff in this prediction, but I will say it would be nice. NXT sort of deserves to be a higher rated wrestling show sometimes. This is one of those times where it probably deserves to be a better rated episode of wrestling. But I'm not going to agree with Eric Bischoff on this one. I'm not going to. I heard there was supposed to be some vignettes for Dragon Lee. They haven't appeared yet, so I guess later. I guess some other time. All right, let's get into the show. There's other notes, but matter of fact, yeah, let's talk about it now. Booker T is now the full-time commentator for NXT. He talked about it on his podcast where he says, quote, "That's my full-time job now. I'm full-time on NXT. I'm going to be in your ear, all up in your ear. Every Tuesday night, Wade Barrett, I don't know if they're going to keep him on, find him a spot on Raw or SmackDown or something like that, but his ass ain't coming back to NXT. He's finished. He's wrapped. Bad news for you. Booker T has stole that spot. I told you guys I was going to steal it. You don't give me a job and expect for somebody to come back." He says, "I'm like Tom Brady. Once I get in the game, I ain't coming out. I'm serious, man. The thing is, if it wasn't something that I was expecting or anything like that, but I'm excited for it. I'm excited about this new venture." So Booker T and Vic Joseph is incredibly fun on commentary. Vic Joseph is my favorite play-by-play guy in WWE. Without a doubt, I am carrying the torch for Vic Joseph to be the guy, the voice of Monday Night Raw. Kevin Patrick sucks ass as the voice of Monday Night Raw. He sucks donkey booty. He's bad. He's garbo. He's trash. He's not good. Not good. It's not even the accent. See, people are too worried about the accent. It's weird, yes, but it's not even the accent. The thing is, the kid is boring. He is worse than, his accent is strange. No, the kid is boring. He's a boring damn kid, man. I want Vic Joseph to be the voice of Monday Night Raw. He deserves it. He should be the guy. And Booker T being the voice of NXT, I like it. I've always been a big fan of Booker T on commentary. He has such character. All of his Booker T-isms they really work on TV. The shucky ducky quack quack and a lot of the stuff that he can do. His ability to do babyface and heel stuff. Like he worked heel on this show, which was great, especially in terms of him working with New Day. It was really fun when him and Xavier Woods was on commentary together. We'll talk about that in a minute. So Booker T being on commentary and being the guy rules. It rules. So Booker T staying on is great. And of course, he can help the young talent down there. So it ought to be very good. Okay. Match 1, Apollo Crews versus Carmelo Hayes. And a match that was really, really good. I'm still not sold on Carmelo Hayes' finisher. I don't like it. It's a flying leg drop that just destroys his hips and buttocks. It's just not going to work in the long term. I really wish he would transition to something better now while he's still in NXT rather than try to transition into something a little bit later on. But the match itself was very good. Apollo Crews actually broke out a bear hug, which I haven't seen in forever. Like, I'm not exactly a mark for the bear hug or anything like that, but Jesus Christ, it's nice to see. Even though it was like a grab a hold, we're going to commercial kind of spot. It was still nice. Trick Williams had a shirt that says "Trickin' ain't easy," which is tricking easy. You know what? I guess it's not. You got to give up your money, you know. So I guess you have to work hard to have money to trick. And unlike Lil Wayne said it ain't tricking if you got it, but it is. It's tricking even if you got it or not. Trick Williams, speaking of which, was cheating right in front of the referee. He grabbed Carmelo Hayes and pulled him out of the way right in front of the ref. The ref didn't do anything, which, of course, slaps the ref in the face, but whatever. Carmelo Hayes ends up winning with the flying leg drop. This match was really solid, really well-worked match. I don't know what we do with Apollo Crews now. He's out of contention for being NXT champion. What do we do with him? I don't know. Do we put him in the North American title picture? I don't know. he's just kind of languishing now. Carmelo Hayes going forward, which is the right thing to do. After the match, Axiom attacked Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams by doing high-flying moves on them. Since Axiom was scheduled to wrestle Trick Williams anyway, they decided to go right into that match. Trick Williams, I forgot to mention, was actually on Main Event recently. I think he wrestled Mustafa Ali. I didn't hear that much about it. Like, it didn't get glowing reviews, but it also didn't get attacked and shit on. So maybe he was just playing mid. I don't know. If anybody actually bothered to watch it, how was Trick Williams in his match on Main Event? I really need somebody to look into that, because I cannot stomach watching more wrestling, to be quite honest. I don't know if I can do it. I watch too much WWE as it is. I don't know if I could take another 30 minutes. That being said, I want to talk about Sol Ruca, but I'll talk about it near the end. Remind me. Anyway, Axiom wins this match with the golden ratio kick, which is basically like a leaping kick. The match was fairly short. Okay. I always complain that matches are too long. Trick Williams doesn't need a long match anyway. This match had a little heat to it, not a lot. They're going to continue the Axiom Trick Williams thing via a tag team match. How do I know? Well, because Trick Williams held Axiom's leg after he won and allowed Carmelo Hayes to jump him. They both beat him up until Apollo Crews came out there and helped. So that obviously leading up to a tag team match maybe in 2 weeks. So Apollo Crews and Axiom versus Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes. All right. Okay, I guess. I guess. All right. I'm not going to complain too much about this. So New Day, they're still sending Pretty Deadly all around the world on missions to get strange items. As they were doing that, the Schism, the dyad portion of the Schism, were very mad. Thought that New Day was ignoring them, and New Day said that they figured that the dyad. I keep forgetting that they're called that. I'm about to call them their original name, but I'm calling them the dyad. Said that they may have to get a permission slip in order to challenge for the tag team championships. Joe Gacy butted in by saying they're a real family, unlike the New Day. And, they don't need permission, though they do come to him for advice. They lean on him, just like Xavier and E lean on Kofi. And Kofi kind of got offended by that. They kind of bantered a little bit, and it ended it with Kofi challenging Joe Gacy to a match. And Joe Gacy said, well, I'm not going to let a former WWE champion get out of here. So, yeah, most definitely I'll accept that match. So they have the match a little bit later. It's Joe Gacy versus Kofi Kingston. It was the in-ring main event of the night, interestingly enough. We got the great banter between Booker T and Xavier Woods here. It was so much fun. Xavier Woods is on commentary, just being upbeat and optimistic, and Booker T is being as sour as possible. Vic Joseph kind of stirring the pot. He says that Booker T doesn't believe that Big E is currently an NXT Tag Team Champion, and he asked Xavier Woods, do they count Big E as a tag champion along with them? Xavier Woods says absolutely. If him and Kofi are the tag team champions, then him, Kofi, and E are the tag team champions. Booker T says that Big E is done. It's over, just like the rest of New Day when this is over, when they leave NXT. Xavier Woods was frustrated. Vic Joseph, of course, is instigating. Later, Booker T said that Kofi is stealing money in NXT. He said he's down here stealing money, while Xavier Woods said that he's giving the young men opportunities. And Booker T's like, what opportunities? What are you talking about? And then he openly starts rooting for Joe Gacy and Schism, continuously repeating four roots, one tree. He just keeps saying it. And he was very upset when Joe Gacy got pinned. Booker T was not happy. It was so much fun having Booker T on commentary for this main event. And it was fun. The match itself was okay. It was odd that they decided to have this be the match main event of the evening. But still, it was okay. I didn't hate it. Gacy has been looking decent ever since he changed his gear. I don't know why they decided to go with the Joe Gacy as a 1986, pro wrestler where he's walking around that joint like Dick Murdoch, pulling his tights up and belly everywhere. I don't know what's going on with that. But that just goes to show that, they're going in a different direction. Nowadays, Vince when they made them put on a shirt. Even wrestling a Snuggie. Wendy Chu's gimmick would be in danger if Vince was still around. But I didn't hate it. Gacy looks like a wrestler. So I guess it's okay. I'm not mad at it. Later, because the New Day were not finished, they went backstage. Pretty Deadly had jumped through all the hoops they had looked. And they said there was one thing on that list they could not do. And they were tired of it. They got frustrated. New Day said that they absolutely have to finish everything on the list. So then, Pretty Deadly volunteered to run the gauntlet that they said they'll beat 3 tag teams in a row to prove that they're the best tag team in NXT. The New Day then said, well, they love themselves a good gauntlet. So if Pretty Deadly can beat 3 tag teams, they will agree that Pretty Deadly are the best tag team and worthy of becoming the number 1 contenders. And then so it's straight set up next week. They didn't pick the 3 opponents, but Pretty Deadly will have to beat 3 straight teams in order to become number 1 contenders next week. Okay, that sounds like it might be fun. Everything with the New Day is interesting. I can't complain too much about what they got going on here. My only hope is that this doesn't end with Pretty Deadly getting screwed and maybe beating 2 teams and then New Day is the 3rd and they lose. I'm not a fan of that idea. I'll tell you that. That's more of a heel thing to do. I don't know what 3 teams it would have to be. So I don't know. It ought to be interesting to watch. So I guess that's why we play the game, to see how it's going to turn out, right? All right, so Stacks got kidnapped last week by Dijak. And this week they had video of Stacks being beat up and handcuffed to a chair under the hot lights that swung back and forth like it's like a cop movie. Like one of those. I said he was going to give people the 3rd degree. I didn't know that it was for real. He was literally giving Stacks the 3rd degree. So he starts questioning Dijak, or Dijak starts questioning Stacks about why he, came and bothered him the week before. And Stacks says, well, whatever the Don asked me to do, I'm going to do it. So Dijak says that loyalty has consequences, but disrespect will never go unpunished, and that he was the face of fear for NXT. So Stacks, and what was one of the ballsiest things I've seen on this show or any wrestling show, it actually made me feel like a grown man was involved with this. He asked Dijak to uncuff him so they can settle it in the ring. And Dijak actually looked at him and smiled and was like, okay, sure, whatever, and left him the key so he can unlock himself. So the 3rd match going into this show, Dijak versus Stacks. The match is short. Dijak wins with his thing that he does. It looks just like CM Punk's go to sleep. I hate that move. I don't like Dijak. I still don't like him. I know that's not going to change. I can promise you that. He's still Chalkakovich to me, and he'll be that for forevermore. In any event, after Dijak wins, he continued to beat up on Stacks, and Tony D'Angelo actually got in the ring and made the save. And I was like, is this a babyface turn for Tony D'Angelo? So Stacks is kind of like selling, and Tony D'Angelo is fired up on the microphone, and he's talking about how Dijak keeps talking about, justice, and Dijak will never have the heart that Stacks has, and he's going to teach Dijak street justice next week. So it's set up next week for Dijak to wrestle Tony D'Angelo. And I'm saying, well, okay, I like that. Tony D as the babyface in this thing is wild. Like Tony D working babyface is wild. That's gonna be interesting. But I'm okay with it as long as Tony D'Angelo wins, which I know you won't. I'm going to be ready next week. I'm going to complain that Tony D'Angelo lost to Dijak, especially since I know I saw what they're setting up here with the Wesley thing, and Wesley volunteered to sit and do commentary for this match, and he said that the winner is going to get a title shot. So I'm almost certain it's going to be Dijak, and I'm not going to be happy about that. I don't understand why they insist on beating people that I like and pushing people that I don't like. But that's the only bad thing about NXT is that, the people who are making these decisions, they aren't the brightest bulbs in the box. You dig? Anyway, I'm okay with it. Dijak, Tony D'Angelo, sounds like fun. I'm there. Gulak was teaching Chase University backstage. He had all of Chase U just in the ring, working them out, showing them what's up. Andre Chase was upset, thought that Drew Gulak should have asked for permission. Drew Gulak says that he was just testing, what Charlie Dempsey said about Chase U. Charlie Dempsey said that this Chase U was soft. And he just wanted to see if that was true. So Andre Chase was like, okay, so what do you think? And then Gulak was like, mixed results. So Chase got mad. He got salty about that because he called his student soft. One of the students was just kind of like, but Mr. Chase, it's just Drew Gulak's opinion. To which, of course, he got cussed out because you don't agree with goddamn Drew Gulak. Gulak sucks. You look at his torso. He got a weird torso. You can't agree with that guy. Anyway, as they were talking, we found out that Charlie Dempsey was injured and therefore he couldn't have his match this week. So they decided to fill in that Drew Gulak would fight Andre Chase. Okay. So I had completely forgotten about the Hank Walker storyline going into this thing. But Andre Chase and Drew Gulak, they had a fairly decent match with Hank Walker being in Gulak's corner while Thea Hale and Duke Hudson was in the corner of Andre Chase. Gulak wins with the Dragon Sleeper, or what they call him the Gulak, which has got to be like the third different Gulak that I've seen. In any event, during this match, Charlie Dempsey actually showed up backstage and took his sling off. And Gulak wins. And what he was teaching Hank Walker the previous week was about sportsmanship. That when you get a guy to submit, you immediately let him go out of respect. But here, when he got Andre Chase into the Dragon Sleeper, he didn't let him go immediately. So Hank Walker, because he's a big old country boy, who was apparently naive, decided he was going to approach Drew Gulak about this. And Gulak just kind of ignored him and said that a win's a win. Doesn't matter if I didn't release him immediately. So then at that point, Charlie Dempsey shows up, and Dempsey and Gulak resume hostilities. And Gulak said that Hank will be ready next week and he's going to rip Charlie Dempsey's arm right out of his socket, which I'm looking forward to. I'm not going to lie. I'm looking forward to Charlie Dempsey really putting a hurting on with Hank. Not because I got to get something against Hank, but because I don't mind when people are getting hurt. And I know that this is leading eventually to Gulak and Dempsey being a partnership. And I'm waiting for that, because that ought to be fun. That ought to be interesting. And I'm all about fun and interesting. So this ought to be fun. Okay. Oro Mensah is being boring backstage. And, I was frustrated that he even exists. And then here comes our boy Javier Bernal, a.k.a. Big Body Javi. So Big Body Javi has got a new scheme to be successful. He's releasing a Christmas album called the Big Body Christmas Album. Now, of course, Mackenzie Mitchell, microphone holder, professional microphone holder, she doesn't really get it. She's saying, like, look, you're 2 weeks late. Christmas is already passed. And Javier Bernal said, look, anybody can release a Christmas album on Christmas. It takes a very special talent to release a Christmas album after Christmas. Technically speaking, 11 months before Christmas. Then he says that it's going to be 13 banging tracks, the 12 days of Big Body Javi. But my favorite is when he says, he called Merry Christmas, he says, Feliz Javidad. I love this. Feliz Navidad. That ruled. Oro Mensah tried to bore this thing up again by saying that Feliz. I'm trying to conduct myself professionally here. Anyway, he he tried to inject more boredom into this thing by saying that Javier Bernal was cringe. But there's nothing cringe about entertainment, dog. And Javier Bernal is fucking entertaining. I'm not mad at him. Even if he can't wrestle for shit, I'm not mad at this guy for being interesting. Anyway, they have the match later. Javier Bernal is defeated by Oro Mensah in a match where nobody cared about Oro Mensah at all. And the crowd is chanting that Javi sucks because, Javier Bernal is over. Oro Mensah isn't. Nobody cares about him. He sucks ass. They beat Javier Bernal, which is weird. But okay, sure, whatever you say, dog. It's whatever you want. I don't know. It's weird. Why did Oro Mensah win this match? Where is he going? What is he doing? What are we doing here? Why is this guy basically the same character as Wesley? They're the same gimmick. Why does this guy exist? We don't need this guy. More big body Javi, please. We need more of that. All right, so I'm gonna try to truncate this women's segment because it was all over the place with 100 microphones. Toxic Attraction, that would be JC Jane and Gigi Dolan, got in the ring and said that all eyes are on them and they're going to cut through the women's roster. And that from now on, they'll be the two calling the shots, and they only have one target, which is Roxanne Perez, the woman who tried to end their empire. From there, we get a series of introductions from Indy Hartwell, Cora Jade, Nikita Lyons, Zoe Stark, Wendy Chu, Thea Hale, and a bunch of others, as they all interrupt to trash talk the one before them, each one in a more stagey video game like promo, and the performances varied. The performances and the content varied. Nikita Lyons was particularly not very good. Zoe Stark was still, of course, also not very good. Wendy Chu was cringe as usual. Indy Hartwell basically dissolved in water. Like, the moment she got interrupted, nobody cared about her anymore. Nobody thought she existed anymore. It was weird. And they all ended up in one big brawl where everybody decided to fight because Thea Hale called out girl fight. So now everybody's going to fight. People seem to lean over into the people that they were feuding with, such as Wendy Chu and Cora Jade and Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, who weren't even out there at the time. They managed to find their way out to the ring once the big fight started. So Roxanne Perez came out there and asked for everybody to not fight. She basically said, look, hey, everybody, it's okay, everybody. And then she announced there's going to be a 20-woman battle royal next week, the winner of which will be the number one contender for Vengeance Day. She held up the title and everybody paused fighting while she talked and then resumed fighting afterwards, which is, of course, very, very fake. I wish they hadn't done that part. I wish they would at least have done the battle royal announcement and then had everybody fight. Because it felt weird for everybody to pause just so she can talk, just for them to go back to fighting. That seems stupid to me. Sorry. It seemed dumb, but it was not a particularly great segment. But I guess they had to do something. Now, in terms of this battle royal, because they haven't really done a great job, and I'm thinking they're still kind of reeling from, the Mandy firing. So I'm begging the question, like, who is going to win this? And my guess, now, if I was the one booking this, most people would say, well, you would think that Nikita Lyons should win. And I would say, well, no, because for starters, she's a babyface, so I wouldn't put Roxanne Perez in that position. I would put Roxanne Perez in there against a heel. So you'll be surprised to actually hear who I think that she probably should win. But I am greatly disappointed that we get almost zero buildup on Sol Ruca. Now, Sol Ruka went viral on Twitter like 2 weeks ago when her finishing move, I think it's called the Soul Crusher or something like that, was debuted on Level Up. And the following week, I think she had another match on Level Up that people thought was very good. And they showed some exchanges of her and I think a young lady named by the name of Danny Palmer, where they were just kind of doing exchanging holds and stuff and showing off their athleticism. And it seemed like they knew what they were doing, you know? And this is, again, 3 weeks in a row where they have not capitalized off Sol Ruka getting eyeballs onto Level Up. I mean, people actually care about Level Up and they're watching it and they're tweeting out Sol Ruka shit, not just at her to get brownie points to get it, but just generally, hey, these girls are actually doing something good over here. Maybe we should see this on TV. This is 3 weeks in a row or something like that, and we haven't seen hide or hair of Sol Ruka on this fucking show. Why are they so terrible at taking advantage of somebody who clearly has a hot hand right now? Instead of trying to force fucking bums on everybody like Wendy Chu and Zoe Stark, why not go with the hot hand? Go with Sol Ruka. Everybody's already talking about her. Yes, Sol Ruka's a babyface, but she's not much of a babyface. Last time I think she was on this show, she just kind of stood and watched another babyface get their head kicked in. You know? And plus, since she's essentially a blank slate, you can actually turn her heel. You know, if that's what you really want to do. But Sol Ruka is the name on people's lips right now in terms of the women in NXT. She's actually doing stuff. Nikita Lyons is, of course, a bombshell, but she's not. They turned her into fucking Captain America. I mean, she's on ice. You know, outside of pictures, they don't do shit with Nikita Lyons. Now, when it comes to who should win this battle royal, I think it probably will be Zoe Stark, and it probably should be. The reason is that they're turning NXT into a work rate promotion, and Zoe Stark is the work rate girl. You know, that's kind of it. Now, if I were booking it, I would probably look at Gigi Dolan or JC Jane being the winners. And, you know, like I said, continuing the Toxic Attraction Roxanne Perez story. But I can see them going with Zoe Stark because it's a mid-level heel that can be beaten by Roxanne Perez and nothing will change too much. Now, I can see them doing that. And I don't know if they will go with Cora Jade yet, because I'm thinking Cora Jade might be next in terms of winning the title. I just don't get why we didn't utilize Nikita Lyons when she was hot. Instead, we just kind of downplayed everything she did and shat all over her. Which is still, I mean, Zoe started making fun of her for doing TikTok dancing and all that kind of stuff. While it sucks and diminishes all the hard work that Nikita Lyons actually does in the ring, it's better than what they do with Sol Ruka, because she doesn't even be on the show. For Christ's sake, it's not good. Anyway, during that brawl, Isla Dawn and Alba Fire were fighting, and they fought all the way backstage. And what ends up happening is the two of them actually start their match, which was a New Year's resolution match. They started the match backstage in the parking lot, and they basically just had a brawl from the backstage area to the ringside area. We got an appearance from the Big X. Remember when Brian Breaker kicked that Big X and broke it? Like, I forget at what event it was last year, where Vince was really trying to get over the big gold X is over with. They had a big NXT 2.0 X this time. They didn't break it, but it was backstage. I thought that was a pretty nice callback. So Alba Fire beat the tar out of Isla Dawn pretty much this entire match. She ended up pushing her off of a stack of boxes or whatever. Then put her in a wheelbarrow and took her and drove her ringside and dumped her on the floor. They finally got into the ring. They had already been fighting for like 10 minutes by the time the bell rang. At that point, they, of course, hit each other with weapons and did all the weapon stuff. So, we're going into the finish where Alba Fire got Isla Dawn on the table. And Isla Dawn is about to move. She gets up, she looks at Alba Fire, She then smiles and lays back down. So she's going to let Alba Fire do whatever Alba Fire is about to do. So Alba Fire does the Swanton Bomb. And she makes contact, but she doesn't break the table. Like she has mastered this thing so wonderfully that she can't even break a table with it. So even though she hit the move, the table doesn't break. And so she has to then pull Isla Dawn off the table and do the gory bomb through the table to get the win. So Alba Fire actually beats Isla Dawn. I'm glad this feud was not one-sided. I'm not actually upset about Isla Dawn losing here. I'm okay with it. It was a fun little fight. You know, hopefully this is over. Hopefully this is done. Apparently these two are going to also be in the Battle Royal. Is there a chance that Isla Dawn could win? Yes. Should Isla Dawn win? No. Nope. They should do something else with Isla Dawn for a while. And Alba Fire got to get out of here. You know, like she's got to get out of NXT. It's time to go. SmackDown needs some help, and I think Alba Fire and Charlotte Flair could be very fun as a series of matches. That could be real fun shit. So let's get Alba Fire over to SmackDown and let Isla Dawn do her spooky voodoo thing on NXT. That ought to be fun, right? That sounds about right to everybody. Okay. I did not mention the thing that they did on Twitter where they did, I think it's called NXT Anonymous, where they had like this camera person spying on KC Squared backstage, and apparently they're talking about people got secrets, and I don't know what this is, nor do I know what it's about. Doing something like this so similar to Scripps right after you did Scripps is odd. Like I feel like we've been here before. You know, I feel like we've done this already. But this is the direction that we're going in. I don't know. Everybody got their secrets. Yes, that's true. I guess we just have to hang our hats on that somebody in NXT is going to end up being like Mustafa Ali with cameras everywhere. You know, they're going to be Batman. They're going to have cameras and drones and everything all over the place. And I really don't like these gimmicks, but somebody just thinks it's a time for another one. So here we go. Speaking of Scripps, we didn't see that guy this week. Everybody's very disappointed in Scripps. I'm not. I'm not. I find it humorous, but I understand why other people are upset. All right. So, Indus Sher and the Creed brothers, they did a video spot, a vignette for their match next week. I'm guessing this is the main event for next week. If that's what it sounds like. Oh, no, because Grayson Waller and Braun Breaker is next week. Okay, so this is one of the main events for next week. And Indus Sher talked about being celebrities in India, but nobody cares about them in the U.S., which is crazy. And they actually use those exact words. In India, we are celebrities. Nobody cares about us in the United States. I was like, damn. At least they're not, delusional. They are remarkably lucid and self-aware heels. They know nobody gives a shit about them, and they don't like it. So they said that to get respect, they have to beat the Creed brothers, who were sort of overrated as a tag team. And the Creed brothers said they're no one stepping stones. Respect is earned, never given. So this is going to be very good. The Creed brothers are definitely needed on the main roster. But so is Indus Sher. We need Pretty Deadly too on the main roster. I mean, the Usos just need fresh opponents, for fuck's sake. I don't know how much longer we can have the Usos just wrestle mixed up tag teams. I don't know how much longer we can do that. So we certainly need a babyface tag team for the Usos to wrestle, at least until WrestleMania, before we start doing the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn thing. So we need a babyface tag team. It's probably going to end up being the Creed brothers, hopefully. Maybe we might be able to hold Pretty Deadly down here until after WrestleMania. I don't know. I have no idea. Anyway, they decided to close the show with the Grayson Waller effect, which actually was not very good this time because Brian Breaker kind of kept getting lost, and I don't know what the story was. I understood what the story is. I don't know. I was about to lie. I understood what the story is. I think they just had trouble getting it over, you know. So the story going into this is that Grayson Waller is very excited about his ability to outsmart Brian Breaker. And he feels that he's pushed Brian Breaker into being Hulk smash because he feels like he has the advantage when Brian Breaker has that sort of attitude. So he's gloating and spends the entire Grayson Waller effect gloating about how smart he is and calling Brian Breaker stupid and saying, "Oh, oi, mate, why would me wear a fur coat in Florida, mate? You're a dumb lad." And Brian Breaker's just kind of like, "Yeah, you're smart. You're a smart guy. You're smart." And I was kind of like, okay. And Grayson Waller continues to antagonize and, you know, continues to talk about how smart he is and how dumb Brian Breaker is. And I was like, okay, we're dragging this thing on. This thing is dragging, you know, especially the parts where Brian was trying to give Grayson Waller credit for being smart. And it just seemed like he just kept saying the same thing over and over again. I don't know. But the end of the segment was pretty simple. Grayson Waller finally got frustrated because Brian Breaker was not giving him the response that he felt like he deserved. So he says that Brian Breaker is stealing his dad's gimmick. Brian Breaker says, "Well, I love my dad, so big whoop." And as fast as he's going to leave, Brian Breaker then he gets spun around by Grayson Waller, who continues to talk about his dad, and then Grayson Waller catches his issue by getting beat up and power slammed. And I didn't feel like this was a strong ending because I think that these two guys are both very good. Grayson Waller is tremendous as a heel. He's been very good. And I think that Brian Breaker has been very good as the unstoppable, invincible babyface. But the storylines they've been given Brian Breaker have not turned out very well. It's a mixture of performance and just not being good stories. I think this story is solid, but the content is just weak, especially coming from Brian. Maybe we should have just let Brian be the Hulk smash guy, and he just smashed the segment immediately without even going back and forth with Grayson Waller. Trying to have Brian Breaker outsmart Grayson Waller by saying, "Oh, okay, well, I see what you're trying to do, so I'm not going to do that." It's like, yeah, that's smart. That shows that, you know, Brian Breaker can think. He's not going to let Grayson Waller get under his skin. I get that. But it was boring. You know, like it was a boring segment. It wasn't, you know, and it went on too long. I felt like we probably should have just given Grayson Waller the false sense of security by having Brian Breaker beat him up immediately, and then maybe letting Grayson Waller cut a promo afterwards by saying, "Yep, this is exactly how I want you. You know, I want you this upset. I want you to, you know, this frustrated. I want you, you know, unable to think." And then for him to make the comments about his dad or whatever. And Brian Breaker's going to give him another beating, and then Grayson Waller runs away. And that's kind of how we end the show with Brian Breaker yelling and pointing, you know, stopped by the invisible wall as Grayson Waller slinks away in the crowd, thinking that he's finally got Brian Breaker. He got him cornered by having him super frustrated and super angry. But here, it seems like Brian outsmarted Grayson Waller by just not being as stupid as Grayson Waller thought he was. And then it doesn't make Grayson Waller look good because he got physically beat up and he got outsmarted. So, I don't know. I don't know what I know what they were trying to do, but maybe they shouldn't have done it. Again, it's along the lines of with the fishing promos and stuff like that. Like, I get it. I get what you're doing. I just question why you decided to go this route with it when it was more exciting the other way. It's more exciting to let Grayson Waller be the antagonist and let his antagonisms actually work. Or, maybe even he outsmarts Braun Breaker again by having like brass knuckles, and when Braun Breaker tries to hit him, he crushes him with them brass knuckles and knocks him out. And now he's gotten over on him 2 weeks in a row. In the third week, now Braun can be smarter and be ready for the tricks and everything. I don't know. The question, of course, now becomes, do they put the belt on Grayson Waller? And I don't think so. It would be nice. It'd be a nice little change of pace, but I don't know if they'll actually do that. It seems like they're going to prime our Carmelo Hayes to be the guy. And Carmelo Hayes versus Braun Breaker at Vengeance Day, that seems more like money to me. So I would go with that. But I'm not hating this Grayson Waller thing. I love that guy. He's very good. And I'm very proud to be one of the few people who have been on that side of the fence saying that Grayson Waller is very good. Okay. So NXT was a very solid show. I don't feel like they've taken advantage of the right people. Tony D'Angelo was really over before they kind of cooled him off. They haven't done a great job with Roxanne Perez. She hasn't developed much. She's been champion, 3 weeks now, but she hasn't really developed that much. I know they're probably still kind of reeling over the Toxic Attraction thing, but we gotta keep it moving. To finish the show, I guess we could talk about Mandy Rose becoming a millionaire, because I guess that's NXT news, and she kind of confirmed it, and Fan Time confirmed it. She made $1 million before Christmas or something like that, and everybody's acting like this is such a big deal. Again, the thing is, and it's been real disappointing, I think, is that people think that she's just doing simple pictures. Like I said, man, she was doing stuff that was pretty raunchy. And when you got the kind of following that she has, I'm not surprised at all she made the money that she made. I'm not surprised. I hate to put it this way, women live life on easy mode. I keep saying it. She's a beautiful woman who's been on television for 6 years, 7 years. Of course, she has a massive following. And then she's going to show she could have probably sold 100 million calendars without even doing the whole naked thing. So once she started doing topless videos and some of the more soft core stuff, of course she became a millionaire very quickly on these fan sites. I'm not surprised at all. More power to her. I think it's great. I'm not going to complain about it. I wonder how long that's going to last, though, because all of this stuff seems to be very short term, especially since a lot of it goes by how many of these people are going to continue, coming to the site. Like there's a lot of people who didn't really know about it until she got fired. And then her getting fired was excellent promotion for the site. So it's like, oh, it's too hot for TV. It's too hot for WWE. What is going on over there? So a bunch of pussyless weirdos go up and they start dumping their money onto the site, and then they go look at the pictures. But how many people are going to be back next month? How many people are going to be back in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months? Like, there's a lot of these women who have had successful OnlyFans accounts. Maybe not as successful as Mandy Rose, but they have had successful accounts. And then, the subs, they fall off over time. Like, I don't hear anything about Toni Storm's OnlyFans anymore. Remember when everybody was losing their mind about how much money she made? I'm pretty sure she don't even have. I'm pretty sure, especially around Christmas time, a lot of those people disappeared. And it happens. You're in subscription business. The payments has to be recurring. So you have to do something to get people to stay month after month. And unless you're going to up the sexiness, people are going to get in there through curiosity first, and then they're going to sort of taper off as time goes on, they're going to be used to, oh yeah, how many times can we see you in the bikini? Yeah, I've seen this bikini picture. Or, one bikini picture is pretty much the same as all the other ones. I heard you were doing some really rowdy shit. Do some rowdy shit. Or, time kind of goes away. But also, it's kind of easy to get people to do subscription, because people order a subscription and then forget. So it's I can see how it can go both ways. But I'm not surprised at all. She was very successful. Mandy is a knockout. He's a bombshell. And she was willing to go to the next level with some of the soft core stuff. Of course, she was going to be successful. I do think she'll be back, though. Will she be back at the Royal Rumble? I don't know. But I definitely think she'll be back eventually. All right. So NXT was fun. And got some good positive news going around. Gonna definitely be waiting for like Dragon Lee and some of the other people who are supposedly going to be popping up for NXT soon. Definitely looking forward to them. So, what do you guys think? New Year's Evil gonna be fun as hell, and I will be there with bells on. It's gonna be fun. All right, like, share, subscribe. Thank you guys for your time. I'll talk to you guys later.